Hello, everyone. So we're really excited about today's webinar. It's going to be focused on Marketo's new email editor. This was released in February of 2025 by Adobe. So many of you may already have access to the new email editor. If you don't, we'll talk about the reasons why. But today's webinar is going to be focused on really exploring the various capabilities of the new email editor. We're going to jump into a live instance and walk through the actual build. And we're going to compare against what the classic email editor allows for in the process. So our agenda today, I'll give you an intro to who I am, to who Nomad is, then we'll jump in and we'll really start building together. So my name is Lu. I have been with Nomad Marketing for 7 years now. I'm head of technical solutions, and I've been working in all of the major marketing automation platforms for the last 15 years or so. I'm really into solution-focused building. So especially when it comes to Marketo, Marketo's been releasing a number of features since the acquisition with Adobe. The new email editor brings a lot of new capabilities that I'm personally very excited about, and I know our team at Nomad is too. This is going to be something that's really going to help us scale our marketing efforts. There's a lot of cool new functions we're going to dive into, so excited to explore that with you together. And Nomad Marketing, for those of you that don't know us, we are a New York City-based marketing ops agency. So all of us are working in a Manhattan office. We are working in the marketing automation tools that we all know. So we're working in Marketo and HubSpot, Salesforce tools like Pardot and Marketing Cloud. And then we're working in all of those tools that connect to our marketing automation platforms. So we're experts in CRM, so Salesforce, Microsoft Dynamics. We're experts in many of the tools that you would find in a classic tech stack, right? So tools that connect to Marketo, ABM tools, sales automation tools, account matching and lead routing. We're working in these instances all the time. So we're constantly finding new applications of how to integrate tools the right way into our tech stack and really help companies scale their marketing efforts. So with that, I want to dive straight into Marketo, and let's go through what this new email builder experience looks like. All right, so we are in our Marketo sandbox instance right now. Something to note, in order to have access to the new email builder, you will have had to already migrate over to Adobe Identity. So it's called IMS. So if you haven't done that already, you're probably getting prompts in your Marketo to say, you will need to manage your migration soon. You'll need to set a migration date. So that's something you can work on with your Adobe account manager to do so. But this new editor only works when you're migrated to Adobe Identity, which is where our partner sandbox is currently. So I'm going to go over to Design Studio. This is where these new functionalities live, right? So this is on the left panel on this tree here, we can see what we would always typically see, right? Our email templates, our emails, landing page templates, and so on. You're going to see these new blue buttons where you can actually access the new email builder, either from a template, or if we open up the emails, we're going to see emails. We're also going to see fragments, right? So we're going to talk about what fragments mean as well in a bit. But let's just dive into what it actually looks like to build an email using the new email editor. So right now you can see this is a new window as well. These are all of the emails that we've kind of built over time in our instance. I'm going to create a new email just to start. Immediately what you're going to see that's different is we're going to be asked for a subject line right off the bat, which is interesting. We can always change the subject line later, but I'm going to just call this Nomad Event Invite. And you're invited, just to start. We can always personalize after creation. We're going to talk about all of those elements as well. So let's go ahead and create our first email. Once we get here, this is also going to be a new look and feel for all of us, right? So on the left side, this is where our preview is going to be of what that email is actually going to look like. But then on the right side, I want to go over some of these new areas. We have the ability to set some of the data that we would typically do in the classic email editor directly from this panel before we even begin the build process. Things like the from name. I want to set my from name to Nomad Marketing. Our from email. Again, these can be personalized just as we would typically do. We can always tokenize these sender email addresses, right? So we could do that from here, or we could just add in an email address. I'm just going to copy that because I'm going to use that again here in a second. We're going to use this for the reply to as well. And then here's where we can actually customize this further. So if we wanted to personalize the subject line with a token, you're going to notice something new here. So in the new email builder, we have access to tokens, and it expands past our typical company and person tokens that we see, our lead tokens. We have access to system tokens, right? We have access to things like trigger tokens. Maybe we want to utilize a name from one of our triggers. So there's a lot more we can do here in terms of personalization because we have access to a greater amount of tokens outside of lead and companies. And it's all available here. So I'm just going to use first name as my personalization token. I'm going to drop that in after my comma, put a little exclamation mark, and then we'll save that. Great. Some more things to note here. So operational email settings, including a view as web page. These are settings that we typically would see in the settings tab of the classic email editor. This is all now going to be available to us right here in this right pane. So if I want to set it to operational, I can do that from here to bypass unsubscribe. If I want to include view as web page, we can do that. We can also set our pre-header here, which is great. So if I want to add my pre-header, I can do that here. And then also the availability to add a CC. So I really like that this is here immediately available before we even start to go into the build of the overall email. Some other things to note, the used by, this is something we're still going to be able to have access to. So as we begin to use this email that we're creating in some of our marketing programs, we'll always be able to see all of the usage right here. So let's jump in. I'm going to go ahead and click edit email content. And the first thing we're going to be asked for is what template are we using? Or do we want to start from scratch? So the great thing about this new email editor is some of those sample templates, saved templates that Adobe provides you right off the bat that have components that you may want to use in, say, an event email. So I'm just going to search event here. And hey, I like this one. I might want to use this. But these are already pre-set up to be sized correctly, to be responsive. So we don't really have to think about kind of coding in different elements of the email. It has a lot of those components already right out of the box. We can also utilize save templates. So we do have a save template that we've already created for ourselves here. I could go ahead and select this template and build off of it from there. In this case, I'm going to select that event template. I like that one. I think it's going to make sense for our use case here. So I'm going to select that. Before I do want to note also, Marketo does give us the ability to import HTML. So as you're exploring the tool, you may want to attempt to import HTML from one of the save templates that you're already using in your instance. Like you really like that template, you want to bring it into the new email editor and see what you can do. There are restrictions or limitations of importing the HTML. It's not going to render exactly how you'd expect to see it in a typical classic email editor, if you will. So take a look at this function, see what you can do with it. But in general, what we've seen so far is we do like to build these emails from scratch using templates we've created in the actual email builder. It just works better. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and use this template. I like what I see. And we're going to set up a classic invite email. So immediately what you're going to see here on the left side are going to be your components. So the components are broken down into structures and contents. So structures are going to be those modules that you typically pull into an email, maybe a 1 and 2 column left, right? Or a 3 to 1 column right. You can kind of see exactly what it's going to look like just by pulling these in. It's a drag and drop functionality. So pulling in one of these structure components immediately allows you to then start building off of these. I'm going to go ahead and delete that because I'm going to use what's already in place here. But we can also add contents. So we can add containers, we can add buttons, all of it by just dragging in. And we can add our own code as well. So we may actually want to add in an HTML element at some point in our email. All of them we can embed directly into this save template that we already have. All right. I want to now focus on the far left panel here. So away from the components tree, over onto this section where we have ability to add components. We have fragments. We have Marketo Engage assets, which are going to be those design files that we're going to use to build the email. The actual navigation tree, which includes a full tree of your entire email that you're building. So you can actually click through to one of the components to find where it lives on the email and edit it from there, which is great. And then finally, what I really love about this is one place to track all of your links. This is important as a marketer, right? Because we want to be able to see where are all the hyperlinked areas of my email. Am I missing something? Have I applied the right parameters to those URLs? It's great to have it all in one place and be able to edit it from this pane. I can edit it straight from here. I can select whether or not I want to track it with Marketo token or not, just as I could in a classic email. But the idea is, though, that you're able to kind of see them all grouped together so that we're not missing anything, right? We're avoiding more mistakes this way. So I love to use this feature. I'm going to jump back to fragments, and we're just going to talk about what a fragment is. So we have always had the concept of snippets in Marketo. They're reusable blocks, text blocks that we can use for things like an email signature or social kind of links. It's a really great way to standardize reusable content, text content across multiple templates that you have in Marketo. But the difference is with snippets, we can't edit those snippets within an email. Those are locked down. We have to access them from a different area of Marketo. They're controlled in a different environment. With fragments, they are reusable content blocks. So there's a lot more flexibility and they're able to be edited within an email, which is really great. So we have found that really good use cases for this. Let's think about our event campaign that we're going to run. We'll probably want to use the same content block for several invites to our events. So that makes sense to have as a fragment to be available for all of the team to use. We also probably want to have the same banners and the same footers just to make everything look standard and normalized. So banners, footers, those are great ways to use fragments and be able to edit them if you need to directly within the email. So you can see here, we've already set up a few fragments that are published and ready to be used in an email. So I'm just going to drag over our Nomad 2025. Awesome. I'm going to remove some of this. So I'm going to clean this up a bit. I'll get rid of the logo banner from the email template. And then I'm going to just start to build this email. So you're going to see that we have the ability to make changes to each of these different components directly within this right pane here. So in this case, this is an image component. So we're able to pull directly from our Marketo Engage assets. So if I have a saved asset here, let's say we're going to pull in this image. We want people to attend one of our events at the Adobe Summit. I'm pulling that in directly from our Design Studio library, as I always have. You can always import media from here as well. And you're able to give it metadata tags, as you typically would, directly within this screen. I love these components because they're already built to work. So they're built to work across multiple devices. They render really well. In our testing so far, they just look very sleek on mobile and desktop, which is great. We can say whether or not we want certain elements of the email to be visible on all devices, or maybe on mobile, we don't want to show everything. Maybe we want to limit exactly what's being seen to kind of keep the email in a more digestible fashion. We can always say, for these sections with the images, we only want to show on desktop and not on mobile. So that's a great kind of way to give a better view for the end user of the email, what you exactly want them to see. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pull in some images here just to show what this looks like. So I'm going to pull in some headshots that we've already preloaded. I'll pull in a headshot for Ari. I'll pull in a headshot for Thomas and for myself. Let's give this email a nice build. Awesome. So let's actually jump into some more of this functionality. So these are pre-built content blocks, right? Directly from this save template. You're going to see that the WYSIWYG editor that we all know is already going to be available to us in any of these sections. We can go into the code and actually update it straight from here, which is something I personally like to do. We can personalize it from here. So if we want to say, meet Ari at the show, might bring in that first name again. So we can actually go ahead and edit it directly from here. Same with the buttons. We can adjust the button text, the button styling, sizing, etc. directly from this WYSIWYG, which is great. We can duplicate our efforts, which is really nice and easy to do. So we're not going to actually use 2 buttons in this email. I don't want to do that, but you can see the use cases, right? So we may actually end up adding a 4th event. Right now we've got 3. Perhaps I actually want to just duplicate this entire component, this content piece right here. Easy enough to do. So similar to the classic editor where we actually we can duplicate different sections, you can do that here as well very easily directly into your email. I'll go ahead and remove this. And now that we've kind of built out the framework of our event registration email, let's talk about the generative AI functionality a bit. So for those of you that have already been working in the email builder, you may have seen that you have access to this AI assistant right here. If you don't see this, you likely have not accepted Adobe's Gen AI policy yet. So work with your success manager to make sure you have access to this functionality. But their AI functionality, it's built on Adobe's proprietary model via Adobe Firefly, and it's really cool. So you can utilize it to create prompts and create different variations of things like your body copy, which is something I want to try here. In our body of our email, I want to invite folks to register for one of the events that we're hosting. So I'm going to go ahead and give it a prompt. Join Nomad for one or many of our events we're hosting at this year's summit. But I want to get more ideas. I don't want to have to think about all this on my own. What can AI generate for me based on the prompt that I've already given it? So what you're going to see here is it's automatically going to start creating some variations for us. So let's let these take some time to appear. And what you're going to see based on that original prompt we gave, right, we're going to get a few variations. And I actually like to click into the preview section for this because it's going to give us some more flexibility on what to do. I want to choose one of their variations. I actually like them a lot, but I want to refine them, right? So I think I like variation 4 best, experience innovation at its best, join Nomad. But what else can I do to make this a little more interesting? Using the refine feature, we're able to do a few things here. So let's say we have a lot of content. Maybe we have a long paragraph for that body and we want to summarize it. We can utilize the summarize feature. It's going to start to give a more summarized kind of a view of what that original text was. If we want to elaborate further, we want to actually expand on what we're saying, we can do that as well. So you can see it's here trying to generate those elaborated versions of our variations. And now you can see kind of some of those variations we've expanded probably more than I would have actually liked, but it gives us another view of what this content could look like. Finally, we can change our tone. Love this feature. I want this to actually be a bit more exciting, right? I want people to get really hyped about joining one of our events. So let's ask the model to make these variations more exciting in our elaborated version. Perfect. All right, so now that I'm seeing all these, I actually like variation 3. This is the one I want to select. This is the one our teams agreed on. I'm going to give it a little thumbs up here. Give feedback to the model as much as you can. Let it know high quality, great for inspiration. Let's help it learn the types of content we want to create going forward. Awesome. So we've selected that variation. I'm going to go ahead and just apply it directly into the email. Perfect. Maybe I want to left align it. So the WYSIWYG, of course, we can still adjust this as needed. So love to use this. Highly recommend playing around with it, seeing what you can build, how you can be more efficient with your email building. Next up, I want to go over the simulate content. So simulating content, this is very similar to the preview function in the normal email editor, right? Where we can actually select a person from the database. So I'm going to go ahead and reselect. I'm going to find Lu. And I want to preview as Lu for this email, just so we can see that personalization come through. All right, so let's see how that email renders for Lu. You're invited. We know we have personalization also down here. Hey, Lu, would you like to meet Ari at Summit? So really easy to do so. You can always send a proof as that person, just like you're used to doing. You can send to one or multiple email addresses simulated as Lu for your proof. So easy enough. I'm going to close out of the simulator, and I'm going to go back to the body. So jump out of the AI assistant. I'm going to go back to the body here. Check that I like my title, my subject line, and this is looking pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and save and close this. Now that we have a good email so far, that drafted version ready to go, when you've saved one of your emails in a draft mode or in a publish mode, you're always going to get alerts. So take a look at the alerts button each time. You're going to get warnings and you're going to get errors. So warnings are something that's going to direct you to resolve before you send the email, but it's not going to necessarily block you from sending it. So in this case, we could send out the email as is. It says that it's found placeholder links in the email body somewhere. You should address that, which we absolutely should. So these warnings are really helpful so that you don't send out an email that isn't quite ready. But if there are errors in an email, like a missing sender email, missing reply to, it's going to send that error and it is going to block you from publishing this version. So really nice feature to have. All right, I'm going to go ahead and publish this, and I want to go over one more new feature that was released with the new email builder as of now. So our April 2025, the ability to use content locking. So you can see I've jumped actually into the email templates section to do this because content locking is available from templates only, not from your actual email builder. So this is a template that we've already created in Nomad's instance, the 2025 Nomad email template. I'm going to edit this email template. This is what I want folks to use for general email sending. So as we build out our email template library in the new builder, we might have a template specifically for emails where that template always uses the same banner and the same footer. We might have specific templates for product releases and so on. And with those templates, you might want to control certain areas of the email that you allow your marketing team to edit and which ones that you actually want to have locked down. So we're finally able to do that with data or with content locking. In the template, in the body section, if you enable governance, this is where you can put those controls in place. So if you want to content lock, right? So select certain areas of the template that you want to lock down and not allow your users to change when they build an email. This is what we're going to select. If you want to make the template completely read-only, you can do that as well. In this case, we're just going to enable content locking to demonstrate. And we're going to set one of two things here. We can allow structure and content additions to the template, or we can allow only content additions. So those structures are here on the left panel. Those are the column layouts, right? The 4x4, the 2x2. Content is going to be adding things like containers and buttons and HTML. So what do we want to allow the users to control? I'm going to allow our users to allow structure and content additions. However, I'm going to go into these individual sections and I'm going to say what's actually going to be locked down. So I want to retain this banner. I'm going to lock this. So anybody using this template cannot make any changes to the text, the background, any of the styling to this particular component. I want to do the same thing with the footer as well. So I don't need anybody editing this footer. I want to completely lock that down. And that's how this template is going to be used going forward. Now, our end users, based on our data governance rules, they're going to be allowed to add a new structure. They're going to be able to add a new piece of content and adjust those as needed, but they cannot change that banner and footer. So I'll save and close this and let's put this into practice. I'm going to go to the emails as if I'm a marketing user and I'm going to create a new email from scratch. So we'll call this our Nomad test email and our subject line will be this is a test. Awesome. Now that we're here, this is the screen we saw earlier. Before we even jump into actually building the email, we're going to be able to set some of those summary settings right out the gate, like the from name, the reply to, whether or not it's an operational email. I'm just going to jump straight into the email content because I want to select the template that we're using and walk through this content locking functionality. So rather than using any of the sample templates this time, I'm going to use a saved published template that's been made available to me in our instance. We're going to select the Nomad 2025. Okay, so now that we're actually in this new email using the email template, let's take a look and see what our content locking shows. So I'm clicking on the component for the banner. You can see now that the lock design and content is enabled. The end user cannot change this. However, if we go into this component, we're able to actually update via the WYSIWYG as we normally would. Let's check that footer as well. And we can see that that was locked down as well. But as an end user, I should be able to still drag a structure in because we've allowed that in our data governance for this email template. I'm also able to add in a button if I so choose. So you do have a lot of different ways to control the templates that you're having your team work with from a structure level, from a content level, from an overall template level, which is great. Awesome. So I'm gonna stop there. Now we're really excited about this new functionality. Like this is something we've been waiting for a while. If you'd like a hands-on demo of how all of this works, feel free to reach out to us with not just for the Marketo email builder. We're happy to give demos on any of the products or the functionalities within Marketo Engage. Just reach out to us on our contact form and we'd love to get in touch with you and show you some of these things in real time. So thank you for joining me today. Looking forward to seeing you next time and happy building.